If you're watching this video, this is going to be a video about our sweet scientific method lab. So thank you for watching. You're probably watching this video because you're home quarantining, you're sick, or you just need a recap of today's lab. So the purpose or question, this lab sheet is attached in Google Classroom for you, but I'm going to read it aloud for you in case you don't have it in front of you. It says, in class, we've been learning all about the scientific method and how scientists conduct experiments. You've all been doing great, and it's time to put your mad scientist skills to the test. We are going to do an activity today called the Sweet Scientific Method. During this, you will follow the scientific method to determine which types of cookies will sink and which will float in milk. Hopefully, you've all had experience with eating cookies and milk, so hopefully you'll have a little bit of prior research with that. You'll get 4 types of cookies to test your hypothesis. So your exact question, your testable question is this: will different types of cookies, Chips Ahoy, Oreo, golden double stuffed Oreo, or vanilla wafers or Nilla wafers, when placed in a cup of milk for 3 minutes, either sink or float based on their texture, composition, or mass? So let's read procedure part 1. Identify each cookie and line up each one with 1 cup of milk. So if you look at our samples here, okay, we have regular, actually I'm going to do it in order that it's on your lab sheet. So the first cookie that we have is a Chips Ahoy. Okay, so Chips Ahoy. Our second cookie that we have is an Oreo. So regular Oreo. Our third one is the golden double stuffed Oreo. And then the last one is a vanilla or Nilla wafer. So hopefully you've had, like I said, experience with one of these cookies as well as milk. So you identify each cookie and line them up with milk. So I have milk here. I'm going to actually tilt this down a little bit so you can kind of see our setup right here. We're going to line each one up so you can see them, and then you're going to place them in the milk. So I'm going to just pour our milk here. Again, you want to be as accurate as possible. There's no increments on the actual glasses. So you're going to have to kind of, in this case, you're going to have to eyeball it. The cups that we got actually don't have little lines, or we say, fill to the top line. But in this case, as long as they're at eye level, they all look pretty close, or as best you can get it. Then that is good. Just top off so I don't have any extra milk. Okay, so that's our first step. You need to know which are which. So I showed you what the actual cookies look like. You probably already know what they are. So next, use your 5 senses to make qualitative and quantitative observations about each cookie. Write down your qualitative and quantitative observations next to each on the cookie chart. This can include the color, the smell, the shape, the size, the filling material, the mass, the length, or the amount of filling or chips that you see. So, for example, and this is, I know you're not here to see, but, you could say like the vanilla wafer, it's very smooth, right? It's smaller than the rest. The, color, you can say, oh, this is like a white and this is like a dark or brown, right? You can say both Oreos have filling in it, right? Whereas the vanilla wafer does not. You could say the Chips Ahoy has, 10 cookie chips on it, okay? If you have experience with these cookies, which hopefully you have, you can make some qualitative and quantitative observations. You can also, in the lab, I actually have a metric ruler, so you can record these observations as well. So the Chips Ahoy in distance would be 5.5 for Chips Ahoy. The Oreo in circumference would be 4.5, 4.5 for the golden Oreo as well, and then 4 for the vanilla wafer. So that might be a good quantitative observation. We also have a digital scale that I can actually give you the mass of to, again, give you another quantitative observation. You just got to give me a minute to get it plugged in and turned on. So you can record that. I also tell students, for your observations, besides like the length or the distance across, we do mass, which is why I'm giving you the digital scale. But you can also tell me like how many letters do you see on top of the cookie? How many chips do you see on the cookie? So that's important for you guys to take note. So the Chips Ahoy cookie is 12.03 grams. 12.03 grams. The regular Oreo, you can see me measuring as I go, is 11.64 grams. The golden Oreo is 15.21 grams. And then lastly, the vanilla wafer is 3.32 grams. Okay. Again, qualitative observations are, what does it smell like? What does it taste like? You can't taste them in lab, but you probably have tasted them before. Sweet, more chocolatey, more vanilla, things. That's kind of what descriptions you can waft and tell me how it smells, even though they all just smell like cookies. Tell me which ones have fillings, which one has texture would be really important. Like I said, smooth or rough. You can use like the Chips Ahoy has kind of little crevices in them, which kind of might influence your results. So that's what you're doing in your first data table. Then you're going to make a hypothesis. Now, I'm not going to tell you what your hypothesis is going to be, but it says on that slide, if I soak a Chips Ahoy cookie in milk for 3 minutes, then the cookie will, and you're either circling sink or float. So you're going to circle sink or float. So make your observations based on each. Sink, float, sink, float, sink, float, sink, float. Okay. Pre-lab questions. What is the independent variable? What are you changing as the scientist? So in this case, the independent variable is going to be the type of cookie. You all have your favorite, but that's your independent variable. The dependent variable is what are you measuring or observing or collecting data on? And it's pretty clear in this experiment what you should be collecting data on. Is it going to sink or float? That's your guess. What are your constants? So your constants are what are kept the same, what are being kept the same or constant in the experiment. So you're going to have the same size cup or same cup, same milk, all one cookie, right? They're all one cookie being put in milk. Same type of milk. No, this is 1% milk, right? All examples of what is going to be kept the same in each of these scenarios. So the only difference is the type of cookie. And then what are the experimental groups? Believe it or not, the experimental groups in this experiment are going to be all 4 of the cookies in milk. You don't really have a control group. You could just do a control group could just be a cup of milk. But we all know if you just have a cup of milk, there's nothing going to happen. Okay. So it's basically the control group is the group without the independent variable, which would be a cup of milk without a cookie. All right, so now we're going to test. What you're going to do is, if you were in class, we would actually start a timer, and we would have each student drop a cookie in the milk, and then you're going to set a timer for 3 minutes. So again, you're going to set the timer for 3 minutes and identify or view what is actually happening. So I'm going to move this over just a little bit so you can kind of get a better view of just the cookies. And then I'm going to set my timer. Okay, and you can watch over the next 3 minutes and write down what you observe. So here we go. Carefully place. Okay, and begin. 3 minutes starts now. Okay, so we're at minute 29, and it looks like the Chips Ahoy just sank. Or not minute, second 29, Chips Ahoy sank. I'm seeing some bubbles on the double stuff, which is the golden double stuff Oreo. So Chips Ahoy was first. Again, nothing else is kind of influencing what I see. We're coming up on minute 1. Looks like the Oreo in the milk, it looks like it's kind of dissolving a little bit more than I anticipated. You're right at 1 minute, 9 seconds. Again, I'm still seeing a couple little bubbles pop out from the golden Oreo. We're at 1 minute, 30 seconds. Oh, I'm starting to see some bubbles coming from the regular Oreo. Nothing's happening so far with the vanilla wafer. It's still there. Okay, so it's been 2 minutes. Again, I'm just going to give you a quick little overview. That's an over top view, just so you can kind of see. So it looks like, and we're at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It looks like something's happening right now with your golden Oreo. Looks like it's starting to move. Okay, 2 minutes, 45 seconds. Coming up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so our results are as follows. The Chips Ahoy sank within 30 seconds of the timer beginning. Now, if you look, as I showed you before, it looks like the golden Oreo and the regular Oreo, they're very close to sinking, but they did not sink within the first 3 minutes. I saw those bubbles coming up from both of them, but nothing has necessarily changed in those 2 cups. Besides the bubbles, like I said, now I'm actually looking at them and it looks like there's more milk coming around. So maybe they just needed a couple more seconds for that to actually occur. And then the last one is your vanilla wafer. I haven't seen a change since I put that in. So there's some observation. So let's talk about a little bit what we saw. Your hypothesis, did you think about it if it was going to sink or float? You have to kind of grab that from where you originally guessed. And what do you think? What actually happened? So in this case, the vanilla wafer that floated, Oreo, float, Oreo, double stuffed, float, and Chips Ahoy sank. And then tell me if your hypothesis was correct or incorrect. So that was our results. And then you're going to go down the bottom. It's going to reflect. Please reflect on the questions. The first question, write a conclusion about the experiment, summarize the lab, tell me your results, and what did you learn? Number 2, were any of your hypotheses out of the 4 correct? And then what did you observe about the cookie before the experiment that helped you make that hypothesis correct? Like some of you guys might have cookies and milk almost every night before bed. So you might have had experience over time as to what you thought would happen. Were you surprised by any of the results? Some of you guys maybe predicted one thing and something else happened. And then number 4, how could you change this experiment? Yes, it would be awesome if we could do a taste test, but I would get in too much trouble. So as a result, what do you think you could change about this experiment? Could you use skim milk? Could you change the size of the cookie? Could you change the type of cookie? These were all kind of acceptable answers that you can kind of see then. Okay, so thank you for watching. Hopefully this kind of gives you a pretty good indication as to what you missed in today's activity. And as I close the video, there goes the Oreo. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much.